Chosen one, you felt the destruction before anyone noticed. While everyone watched the walls crack, you quietly built new doors. While those who despair in the shadow of the collapse look for a way out, you walk into the future with the opportunities you have prepared in advance. Now, where everyone else is collapsing, you are stepping into brand new beginnings. Write 666 in the comments. Now don't just be a spectator, be a part of the story. With your support, we will become a giant family of 5,000 people. Subscribe now, turn on notifications and join us. Because you are a true pioneer who knows how to see opportunity in crisis and opens new paths behind every closed door. Get ready, the real change starts now. Life is a lot like walking with a lantern in the early morning mist. Most people just see the gray all around, but your spirit carries a glow, a gentle light that shows the path even before the sun breaks through. Not everyone notices the way the wind shifts or the hush before the first raindrop falls. But for some, there's a special awareness, an antenna, a quiet alertness placed deep inside by the Maker himself. You don't always know why you feel uneasy when everyone else is cheering, but you trust that tug, that little signal inside saying, "Pay attention." You've been the one who could sense the change in the air before anyone else ever saw the clouds gathering. When the laughter grew a little too loud, or the stories started sounding a little too perfect, something in you started watching more closely. It's like being the only one who can hear the train coming when everyone else is busy dancing on the tracks. And when life's weather did finally change, when the storms rolled in and turned celebration into confusion, there you were, standing steady, not shaken, just quietly knowing. Some folks never understand that kind of sensitivity. They call it nerves or fussiness, or say you worry too much. Maybe they even laughed a little when you spoke up, or brushed off your quiet concern. They might have said you were too intense, always on edge, or simply reading too much into things. But deep in your bones, you knew what you were feeling was more than just nerves. It was wisdom. It was God's quiet way of giving you a heads up, long before trouble arrived at the door. See, this isn't about having a magic power or trying to be the center of attention. It's about living close to the Spirit, keeping your heart open, your eyes gentle, and your ears tuned for what most folks are too distracted to hear. It's like you've got a spiritual weather vane on top of your heart, spinning in the wind, catching subtle warnings that go right over other people's heads. You weren't seeking credit or looking to be proved right, you were just trying to keep everyone dry before the downpour. There were seasons where this gift felt like a burden. You'd look around at folks lost in their own happiness, and sometimes you wondered if maybe you were the one missing out, if maybe you ought to quiet that inner voice and join the party. But time and time again, the wisdom in your soul was confirmed. When everything suddenly shifted, and those who ignored the signs came looking for answers, you had the peace of knowing you'd already been prepared. Let me tell you, being the one who sees what others don't is not always easy. Sometimes it means sitting quietly on the edge of things, holding a burden in your chest that no one else wants to carry. But just because you saw the storm coming doesn't mean you wished it into being. It just means you're tuned in, awake to the deeper rhythms beneath the surface of life. This spiritual sensitivity, it's a gift from above, a kind of holy intuition that isn't about fear, but about love. It's the gentle nudge that keeps you from straying too far, the quiet check in your spirit when a situation isn't as safe as it looks, or a person isn't as genuine as they seem. You may not always have the words to explain it, but you've learned to trust it, to follow it even when nobody else understands. It's important to remember that just because others can't see the danger doesn't mean it isn't there. Some lessons you learned the hard way, by stepping into situations that didn't sit right, only to look back later and realize your spirit had been trying to warn you. And sometimes, the world tries to convince you that you're wrong, that you should silence your instincts, that you're just being negative. But with every year that passes, with every storm you've weathered, you've come to realize, the wisdom inside you is real, and it's worth listening to. You know, in a crowd, most folks are content to clap for the show, but there's always someone in the back scanning the exits, making sure everything's safe. That's you. You're the guardian in the watchtower, the shepherd who notices when one sheep is missing. You've got the patience to stand guard while others rest, the heart to care when others are distracted by their own celebrations. So don't ever feel ashamed of being the one who notices first, the one who prepares when others play, the one whose gut feeling turns out to be the only anchor in the storm. The world may try to make you doubt your insight, but heaven calls it discernment. God didn't give you those senses for nothing. He planted them so you could walk in peace, steer clear of traps, and help guide others when they need it most. And here's the beautiful truth. The more you honor that gift, the more you see it's been a blessing all along. It keeps you safe, keeps you honest, and puts you in the position to lift others up when the world suddenly changes. You're not crazy, you're not overreacting, and you're certainly not alone. You're simply awake to a reality that most people miss until it's too late. Looking for inspiration and intrigue? Subscribe and start your quest. Now, with every step you take, know that you are not walking in vain. You're moving with wisdom. The path you're on, paved by those quiet warnings and gentle insights, is leading you right where you're supposed to be. Others may catch up one day, or maybe they never will. But you'll be ready, grounded, and grateful that you trusted the light God put in your heart, long before the world even knew there was a storm on the horizon. Think of it like being the only one in town carrying a weathered old tuning fork while everyone else just follows the parade's music. There's a still, sacred sense in your spirit. A little vibration that lets you feel when the air changes, even if nobody else notices. Where others trusted the billboards, you listened for the undercurrent. Folks around you might be chasing every spotlight, drawn to glitter and flash like moths to a porch lamp, but you move different. Your soul is tuned to something deeper, something heaven-placed. You learned early that what's on the surface rarely tells the real story. As others leaned in for the applause, you caught the shadow flicker across a face, or the way a smile didn't quite reach the eyes. While the world tried to dazzle itself with big talk and bigger gestures, your heart felt the unsaid. You didn't need proof on paper or a flashing sign to tell you the truth. God wrote it as a gentle hum in your bones. When everyone else heard laughter, you could sense the ache behind it. While the crowd was busy rehearsing their lines, you were reading the pauses, feeling the tremors, noticing the energy that spoke louder than words ever could. See, most people are searching for direction by looking outside themselves, hunting for street signs, chasing after the next big thing. But you walk with a compass crafted in the quiet places, one that points true even when the road isn't marked. That's a special kind of guidance. It doesn't always make sense to folks who only trust what's loud and shiny. But in a world addicted to the spotlight, your gift is discernment, a quiet knowing, a spiritual sense of direction that can't be bought or faked. There were days when it felt lonely, days when you wondered if maybe you should just play along and blend in with the noise. But you couldn't ignore what you felt, couldn't silence that inner stirring no matter how hard you tried. You learned to trust the nudge, the gut feeling, the still small voice, even if nobody else understood. And time has a way of proving the compass right. Sooner or later, what's hidden comes to light, and the very tremors you sensed beneath the laughter start shaking the ground for everyone to see. You don't have to apologize for seeing what others miss, for noticing the small things, for picking up on the truth that hides behind the glitter. It's not a curse, it's a calling. God put that tuning fork in your spirit so you could help keep yourself and others safe, steady, and awake. You're the one who notices when the air changes before the storm, who can sense when the music's about to shift, who can feel what's brewing long before the first drop falls. Let them chase the parades and cheer for the headlines. Your path is different, but it's holy. You're not distracted by every new promise or every loud voice. Instead, you hold to what's real, to what's right, to the steady pulse of truth that's been guiding you all along. That's why, when others are left surprised by the shaking, you stand steady, feet planted and heart at peace, knowing you listened to the guidance that never steered you wrong. And as you keep moving forward, don't let anyone talk you out of your God-given gift. In a world full of noise, your compass is more precious than gold. It's like having the instincts of a seasoned fisherman who can sense a storm long before a cloud darkens the sky. While others set sail just because the waters look calm, you've learned to watch for the subtle shift in the breeze, the way the birds grow quiet, the hush that settles before the change. You never traded your inner compass for the noise of the harbor. Instead, you listened, really listened, to the messages carried on the wind of your spirit. When everyone else was buying into the biggest show in town, You noticed how the light bent differently, how the shadows stretched a little too far, how the cheer in the air felt just a touch brittle at the edges. Discernment for you was never about being cynical or fearful. It was about honoring the gifts God placed within you, trusting that sometimes the loudest drum isn't the one leading the real parade. Every moment you felt out of rhythm with the world was just another lesson from the Master, teaching you to trust the signals beneath the surface, to recognize that not every current flows in the direction of truth. You learned to wait on the Spirit's guidance, to stand still when it felt safer to move, to pause and pray when everyone else rushed ahead. This was preparation, not punishment, a spiritual education in listening beyond the obvious, reading the fields for signs of rain when others just saw sunshine. And now, when storms come or the winds suddenly shift, you're already steady, anchored, and ready to help others find their way. You carry the peace of someone who didn't get caught up in every headline, who watched with faith instead of fear, who waited on God's timing while the world hurried to its own conclusions. That's not hesitation, it's holy wisdom, and it's the mark of someone truly set apart. It's like being the lone watchman on the city wall, ringing the bell while everyone else is deep in their dreams. Sometimes, carrying truth feels a lot like carrying a lantern down a road no one else wants to travel. You try to point out the stones and the pitfalls, but folks are happier pretending the path is smooth. The more you tried to shine a light, the more some wished you'd just let the darkness be. You didn't stand apart because you wanted attention. You stood apart because you couldn't ignore the nudge in your spirit, that quiet command to speak when silence would have been easier. Most people would rather hush the trumpet than listen for what it's warning. When you lifted your voice, it felt like you were stepping into a chill wind, met with side glances, laughter that didn't reach the eyes, and jokes that carried a sharp edge beneath the humor. It stung sometimes, sure. But you pressed on, not because you craved applause, but because you understood something deeper. Being set apart is often the cost of carrying real wisdom. You kept returning to your post, showing up when it would have been easier to disappear. You bore the price of honesty because you weren't here to keep everyone comfortable, but to answer a higher call. Every cold shoulder and cutting remark only strengthened your resolve. You realized you weren't built to blend in, you were designed to hold the line. Because somewhere, someone needed to know the truth was still alive and shining, even when the world wasn't ready to see it. It's a lot like tending a garden where the soil runs deeper than anyone expects. Most just glance at the green leaves and move on, but you've always had a way of feeling when the roots are thirsty or the ground is dry. That extra sense in your spirit let you pick up on what was brewing beneath the surface, long before the first weed ever showed its face. Others might gather for the sweet fruit and the easy shade, but you've learned that real growth takes patience, and real shelter can't be built on hollow promises. As you walked through old neighborhoods and familiar rooms, you started to recognize that not every home was built to last. Some were just pretty facades, holding up just long enough for the applause. Your heart, more compass than calendar, showed you that communities built on comfort instead of truth were destined to crack when the seasons changed. You watched as quick fixes faded and the crowd's attention wandered, but you stayed rooted, listening, questioning, holding on to what didn't quite fit. Every time you dug beneath the shiny answers, you uncovered patterns others missed. You found that half-truths and denial are like cracks in the foundation, hidden at first, but sure to bring the whole house down in time. You didn't rush to follow the latest thing. You waited, watched, and trusted your gift. When others built with straw, you chose stone, knowing that storms would come and only what's real would still be standing. In a world that prizes the next big thing, you learned the wisdom of steady hands and quiet discernment. You became the keeper of what endures, even when the world was chasing what's easy. Faith, courage, betrayal, redemption. Subscribe for the stories that changed the world. Imagine your spirit is like a garden, planted by the Master's hand. Some flowers open at sunrise, bold and bright, stretching out for the world to see. But other seeds stay hidden deep in the earth, waiting for their time, nurtured in silence, their roots growing strong beneath the surface where no eyes can judge or misunderstand. There's a reason for every season in that garden. And the wise gardener knows, not everything that grows is meant to bloom in public. Sometimes what's most precious needs quiet, safe soil to become all it's meant to be. That's how it is with the truth inside you, chosen one. There are days when you long to shout your story from the rooftops, to let everyone know what God has brought you through, to shine your light where everyone can see. But you've learned, a lesson that only experience and a few heartbreaks can teach, that not every truth is meant for every ear. There are moments when your story, if shared too soon or with the wrong crowd, gets trampled or twisted. Not because your truth isn't good, but because their hearts aren't ready. So, like that wise gardener, you learned to keep certain things close, holding your peace not out of fear, but out of understanding and wisdom. Let's be honest, most people talk just to fill the silence. But you, God's chosen, you've been called to something higher. You remember when you used to speak your mind at every turn, hoping the world would finally get it, hoping they'd finally see your heart. But instead, all that truth just brought confusion, or maybe even conflict. You saw faces close up, heard the murmurs behind your back, watched as folks misunderstood you, judged you, put you in a box you never fit inside. That's when you learned the art of holding your tongue. It wasn't weakness, it was strength. Strength that comes from trusting the one who gave you your voice in the first place. You discovered there's power in choosing your words, and even more power in knowing when not to use them. Sometimes, the greatest act of faith is saying nothing at all, trusting that God Himself will vindicate you, defend you, and raise you up when the time is right. You learn the wisdom of staying silent, not as a way to hide, but as a way to protect what is sacred within you. The world tells you that speaking up is always better, that being loud is the same as being brave. But you know better. Sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is keep your peace, even when every fiber in your being wants to set the record straight. You don't need to fight every battle with words. You don't need to justify who you are, or explain your calling, or beg for understanding. Because, chosen one, your value doesn't come from the crowd. It comes from the Creator. You learned that real peace is not just the absence of conflict. It's the presence of God in your situation, His hand covering you, His wisdom guiding you, His timing shaping your destiny. Let's talk about truth for a minute. Your truth is a pearl, precious, rare, formed through years of struggle and quiet growth. Not everybody is meant to hold your pearl. Not everybody knows how to treat something so valuable. Some folks will try to pick it apart, question your motives, or use your story for their own comfort. But you've learned, when sharing your truth just brings confusion or conflict, it's okay. No, it's wise to hold your peace, to wait for the moment when the ground is ready and the people God sends are able to receive you fully. Some seasons are for sowing, and some are for reaping. There are times to speak and times to stay silent, and both can be holy. When you hold your peace, you're not losing your voice, you're guarding your pearl. You're listening to that still, small voice inside, letting the Spirit guide your steps. Discernment is a rare gift these days. It's more than just knowing the difference between right and wrong. It's knowing when to move, when to wait, when to speak, and when to stay silent. You see beyond the surface. You can sense when a room isn't safe for your story, when a conversation is more about curiosity than connection, when someone is fishing for gossip instead of genuine growth. That's not paranoia, that's discernment, and it's worth more than gold. Jesus Himself practiced this. There were times He preached to the crowds, feeding the 5,000, healing the sick, walking on water for all to see. But there were also times He slipped away to the mountain alone, praying in the dark, keeping close counsel with His Father. There were moments when He stood silent before His accusers, not because He had nothing to say, but because He trusted the plan and the timing of heaven. Sometimes, your silence isn't for them, it's for you. It's for your protection, your growth, your peace. Chosen one, your calling is too precious to waste on misunderstanding. You've got something special in you that not everyone will recognize. That's not a failure, it's a filter. God isn't trying to isolate you, He's trying to insulate you. Just like a gardener covers the roots in winter, God sometimes keeps you hidden for a season, nurturing you in secret until it's your time to bloom. Don't despise the seasons of silence. They are holy. They are necessary. They are where your roots grow deep and your faith grows strong. There's a scripture that says, "Don't throw your pearls before swine." It's not an insult, it's a lesson. If someone can't value your truth, it's not your job to convince them. It's your job to treasure what God gave you and wait for Him to open the right doors. If you've ever felt overlooked or unheard, I want you to know, you're not forgotten. God sees you. He hears every prayer, every sigh, every word you whisper in the night. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing broken about your story. Sometimes, God loves you so much, He hides you to protect you from what you're not yet ready to face, or from people who aren't ready to receive you. Joseph was hidden in prison before the palace. Moses was hidden in the desert before the deliverance. David was hidden with sheep before the crown. And Jesus was hidden in Nazareth before He changed the world. If God asks you to hold your peace, it's not punishment, it's preparation. It's because He's working all things for your good, in the shadows and in the spotlight. Silence isn't empty. It's full of promise, full of power, full of purpose. While others are busy trying to prove themselves, you're being shaped in the quiet, learning to trust God's timing, growing in patience, building a faith that can weather any storm. The oak tree doesn't rush to become an oak. It grows in secret, season after season, and when the time is right, its strength is undeniable. Don't be ashamed of your quiet seasons. Don't think less of yourself because you're not the loudest in the room. Sometimes, the ones who make the greatest impact are the ones who speak the least, but live the most. Your life is a testimony. Your resilience is a sermon. Your faith, tested and true, will speak louder than any argument ever could. You're not meant for everyone, and that's okay. The right people will see you, the right doors will open, the right hearts will connect. You don't have to force what God is orchestrating. He knows when to bring you forward and when to keep you hidden. He knows who needs your story and who isn't ready for it yet. Trust Him. Trust the process. Trust the seasons. There are people right now who don't understand you, but there will come a day when your journey will be exactly what someone else needs to find hope. Your scars, your wisdom, your quiet strength, they're not wasted. They're being woven into a greater purpose than you can imagine. One of the sweetest lessons you've learned is letting God be your defender. You don't have to answer every critic or explain yourself to every doubter. You don't have to defend your heart to people who are only looking for flaws. When you hold your peace, you let God fight your battles. You step back and let Him be your shield. He'll clear your name. He'll reveal the truth. He'll vindicate you in ways you never could on your own. Remember, if God is for you, who can be against you? No weapon formed against you shall prosper. Even when folks try to twist your words or use your silence against you, stand firm. Your story isn't over. Your breakthrough is coming. Your peace is proof that you trust the God who brought you this far. Live with open hands, chosen one. Be generous with your kindness, gentle with your words, patient with your silence. You don't have to grasp for control or force your way into conversations. Your confidence comes from knowing who you are and whose you are. God sees what's in your heart, and He honors your faithfulness in the quiet moments. When the world shouts for attention, be the one who listens. When people rush to speak, be the one who thinks. When others scramble to prove themselves, be the one who waits. You'll find that the peace you carry is more powerful than any argument, and the light you shine is brightest in the darkest places. If you're reading this and you feel unseen, unheard, or misunderstood, know this: God has not forgotten you. He's preparing you. He's guarding your heart, shaping your character, deepening your wisdom. When the season is right, your story will bloom. And when you do speak, your words will have the weight of heaven behind them. So, hold your peace, chosen one. Stay rooted in faith. Cherish the truths God has given you. Let your silence be a sanctuary, a place where your spirit can grow strong. Your time is coming. Your light is needed. The world may not understand your silence now, but one day, they'll see the harvest your patience has produced. You are not behind. You are not overlooked. You are not forgotten. You are in the hands of the gardener, the potter, the shepherd. Trust Him with your story. Trust Him with your silence. Trust Him with your truth. When the season changes and the time is right, you'll bloom in ways you never dreamed possible. Until then, rest in the peace that passes all understanding. Your truth is safe. Your calling is sure. And your voice will be heard, right on time. The longer you walk this path, the more you realize there were a handful of others like you. People who valued substance over show, who'd rather stand alone in the truth than be surrounded by empty applause. Together, you formed quiet alliances, a fellowship of those who understood that being real sometimes costs you comfort but gifts you with integrity. You learned to see through the illusion, the family reunion that was more about appearances than real love, the gathering that sold connection but delivered transactions, the cheers that faded the moment you stopped performing. Underneath every ritual and every meeting, you spotted the choreography, the practiced lines, the borrowed words, the safe applause. Real connection wasn't in the scripted greetings or the marketed promises, but in the hard conversations, the willingness to face discomfort, the choice to walk away when authenticity was traded for convenience. When questioning the status quo became a sin, you knew it was time to look for something deeper. Your journey taught you that genuine roots only grow in honest ground. You came to see that a foundation built on avoidance will always crumble, no matter how shiny the paint on the walls. While others busied themselves with the past, clinging to memories and make-believe, you let go, made peace with loss, and started building for the future. You found that the only community worth keeping is the one built on truth, not performance. Picture your soul as a great old tree, standing tall after the storm has passed. The rain has washed away the dust, the winds have scattered every weak branch, and now, as the clouds clear, what remains is the truth, rooted, resilient, undeniable. All the props the world built around you have crumbled, the stage decorations have fallen away, and only what was real stands firm. The tree does not mourn the fallen leaves. It stands as proof that true strength comes from within, not from what others built around it. That's what happens when you walk in your calling. The fake falls away, and the lasting stands tall. When the curtains fall and the facades slip, the world finally sees what God saw all along. Your patience, misunderstood by many, mocked by some, now glows like gold in the sunlight. It turns out, the waiting wasn't wasted time. It was wisdom. While others rushed to fix the broken pieces of life with quick solutions and shallow masks, you waited for something real. You learned not to patch the cracks with noise, but to trust the timing of real healing. Chosen one, your insight was never about being right just to be right. No, your gift was a compass in a crooked world, helping you steer clear of hidden dangers and navigate foggy waters. You didn't set out to be anyone's hero, you just refused to pretend. When others settled for the comfort of the crowd, you stayed true to the call inside your chest, even when it cost you applause. Let's talk about that sensitivity you once tried to hide. Maybe you grew up thinking it was a flaw, a weakness, something that made you too soft for this world. But God doesn't waste a single thing He puts in you. The very thing you wished away has become your greatest asset. Like a deer that senses the shifting wind, you pick up on things others miss. Unspoken words, hidden motives, danger beneath the surface. Your heart is tuned to a higher frequency. You feel the storms before they break, and you sense the sun before it rises. This is not a curse, chosen one. This is your map through the fog. While others stumble blindly, distracted by the noise and the stage lights, you see through the illusions. Your patience and sensitivity have kept you safe, led you to new places, and shown you where real restoration begins. You know you're not called to fix every broken thing. You're here to show people what true healing looks like, to be living proof that wholeness starts from within. Refusing to settle isn't easy. It means letting go of approval, walking away from easy answers, and sometimes standing alone when you'd rather have company. But look at you now, living, breathing evidence that growth is possible, even in the hardest ground. You chose the narrow road, and it made all the difference. The applause fades, the crowds move on, but your roots run deep. The tree stands because it never settled for shallow soil. God honors those who keep growing even when the cost is high. When you choose character over comfort, conviction over compromise, truth over applause, you attract a different kind of blessing. You become a landmark, a safe place for others lost in the storm, a testimony that God can turn sensitivity into strength, wounds into wisdom, patience into power. Chosen one, your calling was never about being the fixer. It was about showing what true restoration looks like. There's a world of difference between patching up the surface and rebuilding the foundation. Anyone can slap on a smile and pretend, but it takes courage to get real, to dig deep, to heal from the inside out. That's what you've been doing all along, showing that faith isn't about ignoring the pain, it's about bringing it to God and letting Him do the impossible. Every time you refused to fake it, every time you chose honesty over easy answers, every time you waited for real growth instead of chasing instant approval, you were modeling something rare. You were reminding people that it's okay to be in process. That God honors the journey, not just the destination. Let me tell you, there are rewards for patience that the world cannot see. You've built something the storms can't shake, a character that doesn't collapse when the stage props fall, a faith that stands when the crowds disappear. You have a sensitivity that's not a weakness, but a weapon. Your insight didn't just protect you, it became a map for others who are still lost in the fog. Because you refused to settle, you broke cycles that ran through generations. You chose growth even when it was lonely. And now, your life speaks louder than any sermon. It says, you can be real. You can heal. You can grow even when it hurts. God sees you. God's not done. There's more ahead. If you love a good mystery, subscribe for the untold truths of Scripture. So, as the dust settles and the facades are swept away, you remain strong, wise, unshakable. Not because you fought for every spotlight, but because you learned to trust God when no one was watching. Your roots went deep in the quiet places. Your faith grew strong in the unseen battles. Now, when the storms pass and the stage is empty, you are still standing. That's the mark of the chosen. That's the blessing of the one who wouldn't settle. You are the living proof that patience is a power. Sensitivity is a gift. Insight is a guide. And real restoration always starts with the courage to grow, even if you have to do it alone. If you're reading this and still waiting for your breakthrough, let me remind you, the props will fall, the masks will drop, and what's real will remain. Don't rush the process. Don't wish away your sensitivity. Let God use it. Let Him shape you. Your time is coming, and when it does, you'll be ready, not because you fought for every bit of approval, but because you learned to value what's real over what's popular. This chapter isn't the ending, it's the opening act of something new. You were never called to win the crowd, but to plant hope and spark a deeper awakening. Every misstep, every disappointment, every lesson learned in the shadows, all of it was shaping you for this moment. Now, as you step into the clearing, your story becomes an invitation for others to do the same, to build not on sand but on the bedrock of courage and honesty. That's how you show the world that truth doesn't need permission, it just needs someone willing to carry it forward.